Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Max Colonization series where we're finally going to go over to the second planetoid. And maybe then they'll be able to find the intercosmic blast shot that was missing when the giant meteor ended up hitting their home planetoid. I don't know. There are some things that I want to do around the colony. Some of them I'll do in the background, some of them I'll do with you. Starting off, I want to make sure I have some decent collection up here. And that way we can get rid of all the debris that happens because of the meteors, and then we'll drop it somewhere where a auto sweeper can send it on this line. If you remember, this line sort of circulates through the sauna, dumping as much heat as it can, and then goes through this debris chiller. Unfortunately, this debris chiller is very, very wimpy, and part of the reason for that is the fact that this thermal aqua tuner, apparently this cycle has been running 101% of the time. But you can see the average over the last 5 cycles, it's ran 99% of the time, which is a telltale sign that you do not have enough cooling in your system. So I'm going to fix this first by putting the aqua tuner on the second row where it should have been in the first place, but second by expanding this debris chiller. Now that I know I don't need this space for the sleepy dupes, there is no reason why I can't make this debris chilling system much chunkier. Let's see if we can't give this thermal aqua tuner a little bit of a break. Now eventually we'll have supercoolant and none of this will be a problem because supercoolant would cool that debris at a much more efficient clip. And then down here where I think we're going to start, I'm still not happy with how the chlorine sort of off gases in here. The system works well for what it is, it's just that a 20 kilo blob of bleach stone doesn't off gas very quickly. And the example is evident here in this giant debris of bleach stone sized up at 6.2 tons is emitting chlorine at 15.7 grams per second. But if I go over to a tinier stack of bleach stone, this one 380 kilos, it's only erupting at about 4 grams per second. So I think we're going to do away with this system here, and I'm just going to drop the bleach stone off into 5 or 6 piles, and that way it actually starts getting mass and will emit a lot more. At least once again, that's the theory. To start off though, I'm going to have to destroy all of these rails. Well, maybe not all of them because that center line we still need. So let's do something like that. I will also destroy all of these. And then as you can see, I have some spot up here in the top row where I can put a bunch of conveyor chutes. With all that deconstructing picked up, you can see the megaphons are doing a little bit better because the little bleach stone stacks are emitting more chlorine at a clip. I also need to remember the fact that this area here also needs bleach stone. But I think I'm going to deconstruct this as well because I'm going to bring all the bleach stone into here, drop it off, and what little is left will go into this conveyor receptacle. Let me get rid of this bridge, and I'm going to come down here, and then we're going to drop some every 2 to 3 tiles, and then the rest will end up going into the conveyor receptacle for the emulsifier. Then all I have to do is put some conveyor chutes in, little conveyor bridge, and now maybe, since the stack size will be so much larger on the bleach stone, they'll off-gas more often. I'm even considering putting in some more dew drippers and Rexes just to get more bleach stone. Not that we're doing too bad at 22 tons currently, with probably 95% of it on the colony sitting in here, but there are future uses for the bleach stone. And here we are. Notice the splits that we're getting here. It'll do a 50-50 split with this conveyor chute, and then 50% of the remainder will go to this conveyor chute. So it'll definitely stack more here in the bottom left. There are ways to use bridges to sort of prevent that, but this isn't a big deal at all. Or at least, we're going to try it out and see. Who knows, in 5-10 episodes I might come back here and try something else. The last thing that I'm going to start doing this episode is building the rocket. We need to build a rocket to conduct that data analysis research. And that way we can start getting into our last few tiers of research. Now, there is an alternative. Once we get over to that other planetoid, if I think there's a chance that we'll be able to get 250 total databanks, we'll be able to skip that early space mission and go directly into the data miner to get all the rest of the databanks that we need. I don't think that's going to happen, specifically because of the earlier shortfall in databanks. We do have 136 databanks ready, all stored up in this weepy blue storage bin. So the question is, can I get 114 databanks from the other planetoid? I don't know. Let's go find out. We'll start by inspecting this teleporter transmitter, which I can't believe I haven't already done. There's one more databank, and we'll inspect this one, and there's another databank. I suppose we should probably let the dupes in here now. Imagine Andy's surprise. Hey guys, I found the intercosmic blast shot. What else have I not inspected around here? There's another one. That's 3. Here's 4. There's 5. I still haven't tamed this volcano. It's currently idle. Maybe I could get in there when it's dormant. That'll be another probably 8 to 13 databanks. What about this lab desk? Nope, it's already been inspected. Computer podium? Inspected. Oh, there's a first aid kit. Let's rummage through it. How long's that been sitting there? Either way, that's not going to be enough. Plus, we need to colonize this next planet anyways. To start off with, we need to figure out who we're going to send. Ideally, the dupe that we send is going to be highly experienced in excavation, machinery, and athletics. They'll also need a little bit of field research, and that way they can analyze vents and geysers over there. Keeping in mind that we will end up printing out more dupes, but I think Callie's going to fit this bill perfectly. Speaking of printing out more dupes, we are also going to be printing out more sleepy dupes, but more importantly, at least in Callie's sake, we will be getting the maximum aptitude buff, which is definitely going to help dupes out on planetoids that don't have much to offer. So let's go ahead and put down a skill scrubber. No, we're not making it out of nickel. While we're waiting for Callie to get shaken, not stirred, it's time to think about our system up here. There's a couple of popular methods. One, we can use a bunch of auto sweepers set up everywhere to sort of sweep everything into some conveyor loaders, and then those rails connect to a master rail, which then would connect into the sauna rail. The disadvantage of that is it's a lot of equipment. You would quite literally need to put an auto sweeper every 8 to 9 tiles, along with a conveyor loader in the middle or attached to each auto sweeper. Another solution is using a bucket brigade, which just means the auto sweeper would dump all of its materials out by the automatic dispenser, forming a new pile where this auto sweeper would be able to grab them and put it into its next bucket. This has a huge advantage of being very, very quick. Unfortunately, it's also a lot of equipment, and our wonderful meteor blasters will end up getting in the way from time to time. So we're going to be opting for the third method, and that is using our friend Sweepy. Now, Sweepy has a couple of advantages, and the fact that I'll only have to put one Sweepy at each segment of our space platform. Now, Sweepy can't go across the neutronium, so we'll need one Sweepy here, one Sweepy here, one Sweepy here because there is a little bit of neutronium here, and then we'll need one Sweepy down here for a total of 4 Sweepy setups. If this was all one giant flat spaceport, we could get away with one Sweepy. The big disadvantage is, well, Sweepy's slow, and I mean incredibly slow. But that's not too big of a deal. We will manage. But for as slow as Sweepy is, we do have the advantage of it not taking a lot of equipment. We will put down steel, auto sweepers, and conveyor loaders, and this is all it will take. Sweepy will drop off stuff into the Sweepy dock. All that stuff will be picked up and thrown in the conveyor loader, and we can send that rail into the line. Now, the advantage of doing this is, yeah, we'll need a few extra Sweepies because this area is all sorts of borked. In fact, I'm not going to put this Sweepy here. This is more of the center area. But the fact that we have so few Sweepy setups means I don't have to extend the cooling loop very much. But yes, all this stuff will need to be cooled. Now, for this Sweepy here, there is a chance that they will occasionally get melted by some rocket exhausts, but that's a chance I'm willing to take. I also need to make sure I'm saving enough room because we're still going to need some rocket port unloaders over here. Who knows what this spaceport's going to look like in the future. We also need interplanetary launchers all up here. It's going to get complicated. Now, the power footprint isn't so bad, but we do have a lot on this line. Not so much on this one. Let's wing it. If we end up needing more, we'll add more. And here you can see Sweepy picking up their first debris at 10 kilos per. So it will take Sweepy a long time to get everything nice and clean, but because the meteors actually don't drop off too much stuff, Sweepy will be able to keep everything clean in between those meteor showers. Now, speaking of the cooling, we are going to use iron conduction panels. Iron's not the greatest by any stretch, but these 3 pieces of equipment do not produce a lot of heat, so this is not going to be a big deal at all. So we're going to come in through here, go out, cooling the auto sweeper, then back down, cooling Sweepy, and then all I have to do is disconnect it from here. And there we go. Looking good. Everything's nice and cool. You can see the auto sweeper's already down to just under 2 degrees. One contingency you have to make with this setup is making sure that Sweepy's dock is at a 1. The reason why we do that is because whenever something is placed inside of Sweepy's dock, it creates a sweep errand. And so dupes will come in here and try to pick everything up here and bring it all the way to our storage with the automatic dispensers. That's not what we want. So by putting Sweepy's dock at a priority of 1, it will limit the chances of a dupe getting that errand to get over here. Now what we have to do is tie this in via rail, and it will once again be a 50-50 split, just like everything else on this planetoid, except this is going to be a little awkward to build into, isn't it? I suppose I can go right here, and then we'll just tie it in just like that. Sweepy dock number 2 can go like this. Sweepy dock 3 is now connected. Sweepy number 4 is a little upset because their dock's not plugged in with power yet. Let's fix that. And then we'll connect their rail in just like that. And that should do it. And now the auto sweeper will grab everything out of Sweepy's dock, throw it in the conveyor loader. Well, it will sit for a very long time because once again, our debris chilling system needs an upgrade. Eventually, the back stock will start emptying. Here at cycle 1074, the pod has granted us this Nisbet. Now, Nisbet's not a typical dupe that I'll print out, with only skills in building and tidying, but they have quick learning, which means if we set them as basically doing just about everything dupe, they're going to level up doing a lot of different stuff. So yeah, they'll concentrate on doing tidying and building. Any dupe with quick learning is quickly going to be able to do a lot of other things pretty proficiently. So not a sleepy dupe like we want, but still another productive dupe like we need. Welcome to duplicate number 22, Bendling. Unfortunately for Bendling, they are going to be going into the gym for quite some time. Let's move them across the threshold and then welcome them to their home for about 50 cycles. Now the fact that they are quick learning means they will get the athletics pretty quickly by running in the dupe gym. On a side note, I can't remember if I did this in the background and failed to tell everybody, we did end up expanding our Great Hall and adding another set of barracks. This here would bring us up to 24 duplicants, plus the 7 here would be 31, which is more oxygen than we are producing from our spawn. Not to mention, we're going to want a bunch of oxygen for our eventual hydrogen rockets. But remember, we are creating a little bit of O2 from our rusty deoxidizer. In addition, we also have the infectious polluted oxygen vent that gives us a little over 1 duplicant's worth of O2 as well. You also have to remember that our somnium synthesizer requires 5 duplicants worth of oxygen, which means all full in the colony, we would have a requirement for 36 duplicants worth of O2. We don't have the capacity for that. What's probably going to end up happening is this colony is more of a transient facility, whereas we will have excess duplicants here from time to time, but a lot of their time will be spent on the star map, not to mention the duplicants that we're actually going to end up colonizing the other planets with. Speaking of which, Callie is looking as fresh as the day they were printed. I think we'll go up to super hard digging. I don't know how much diamond and obsidian we're going to need to be able to excavate on that other planetoid, so I'll leave them out of this for now. I will also throw them into some field research. And because it's a 0 net loss, we'll do the improved construction 1. Remember, they get 1 morale point for having an interest in building, and it completely offsets the morale requirement of 1 for being a first tier skill. Speaking of which, we could also do improved carry. Now I just need to find Callie. Where are you going, Callie? Going to generate power? That means you're bored? When is your shift done? All right, we're going to wait until the end of Callie's shift, and once that happens, we will load them up into the transmitter. Good morning, Callie. Boy, do I have some good news for you today. How would you like an all-expenses paid trip to a brand new planetoid? Now, we are going to be sending Callie with their suit, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be wearing the suit full time. It's just at any time that we need to put on the suit, for instance, if they have to go into the oil biome, we'll have one available. But as it stands, we'll have no method of actually charging the suit or providing it oxygen. All right, here we go, Callie. Ah, that fresh new planetoid feeling. First things first, let's take off the suit. It's only got a durability of 16%. I could have taken more care to make sure it was a good suit. Oh yeah, Callie, you're gonna love breathing over here. Let's also make sure we inspect the jar for another data bank. Inspect our frozen friend that we'll print out here soon. More inspections. More inspections. Look at all these data banks. Alright, starting off with, we only have 13,600 calories, but we do have access to the swamp shards, which will never go off, and eventually we'll start growing some bog buckets. Now, as a recap, what we're expected to find on this planetoid is an oil reservoir, liquid sulfur, hydrogen, and a carbon dioxide geyser. This is not good. It does have copper meteors, ice meteors, and slimy meteors, but the long and short of it is, there is no oxygen or water on this planetoid. I might be able to do a polluted dirt situation. I don't know. That's kind of far in the future. For right now, we just need to get Callie some sort of sustainability as they work through this planetoid and find out how we're going to deal with this. Ooh, we could also do Sweetles, but normally that sulfur geyser is stuck inside of magma. All right, let's go. Do let us build a potty before you decide to urinate on yourself. Oh, you're going to get sopping wet. Yeah, you are. There you go. We have a geyser over here. We also have an abyssalite break. Oh, look how cold. That's not good. I'd like to seal that in sooner rather than later. Yeah, I know it's yucky. I'm sorry. In fact, can we knock that down and hopefully mop everything kind of quickly? Yes. Mop, Callie! Mop! We will put down a wash basin made out of the only ore that we have access to right now, which is cobalt. Not that there's any fresh water around here. There's a little bit here I might be able to get some access to. We'll put some doors there, and then an outhouse. There is a lot of mud and polluted mud, which, as many of you know, means we can use the salad spinner wherever it went. Here it is. Ye old sludge press found under refinement, where we will be able to process a bunch of that mud and polluted mud, giving us dirt and polluted dirt, which we could then take the polluted dirt, run it through a sublimation station to provide oxygen. But being this is the connected planetoid, we could send oxygen over from our home planetoid. So we have plenty of options for now. Unfortunately, none of them are really hyping me up, especially with only these 4 geysers on recalling. Now I need to put in a ladder run somewhere in here. It's not too big of a deal. I don't see anything that would obstruct it to the top. We'll see about the bottom. Looks like here's our supply teleporter input. That's good news. And then I think we'll end up putting our bedrooms down here. In fact, probably bedrooms and permanent bathrooms. We'll see. Long term for food, though, I'm really liking the idea of doing Sweetles. I just need to figure out the oxygen piece. On the schedule front, Callie is nearing their downtime, but I think we're going to have separate schedules for each planetoid. It doesn't make sense for them to be on a schedule from the main planetoid. So I'm going to put Callie into this. They definitely don't need to be sleeping or anything today, so I will take care of that next cycle. Right now, their bladder's only at 71%, but they have a potty, so I'm not too worried about that. Why is this unreachable to you? Oh, because you built yourself into a hole. I think we'll go with a pair of nice camping cots, and I don't think the bedroom needs to be very big, at least at this point, because I think this planetoid's only going to ever have 2 duplicates unless we treat it as some sort of substation for rockets. Although I don't love that idea considering how sparse the vents and geysers are here. Callie's been up for about a day and a half. Their bladder's back down to 15%. They did use the potty, and they still have 18% stamina going. Okay, make that 17. Do not fear though, I have added their normal bedtime. They may end up honking out here on the floor, but they'll be just fine. I have set up the permanent bathrooms. I am going to make it a rare 2-way bathroom, but I'm going to make sure this pneumatic door has permission set to where a duplicate can only go through it from left to right. And that way, if they're over here on the colony, they can still hit the bathroom without having to go all the way around. The last thing we need to do, I better check on Callie's calories. Oh yeah, they're still plenty good. The last thing we have to worry about is going to be the mess hall. And I've always liked the idea of this room here being the Great Hall. So we'll throw down a couple of cots. Eventually we'll have a refrigerator and everything else in here. But for now, this will do just fine. Also throw in a nice flower pot. And while it might not be powered right now, I want all the dupes from across the star map to be able to call home. So I will put the party line phone in. Right now, Callie's morale is at a 9 out of a morale need of 8. And that's without them having eaten in the past couple of days or using a great haul. So we're doing decent as far as morale goes. And after a job well done, pulling an all-nighter, Callie is getting some much-needed rest. We went with camping cots because, well, this is kind of like camping. And there are no dinosaurs on this planetoid, so no need to use the stone cot. Next going in is our small power footprint. We're just going to use the standard manual generator and jumbo battery for now. The jumbo battery will have the advantage of putting off a little bit of heat, which hopefully can start mitigating some of this chill. Next up is going to be trying to get in here and sealing this place off, although with the plug slugs sitting there, this is going to be a pain in the tuchus. I think we'll end up moving the plug slugs over here. Oh, that's right. You need critter ranching in order to be able to move a critter. Are there any other naturally... Oh, yes. We have these plug slugs here, and I don't think we're going to be using plug slugs, so we'll just terminate them instead. Sorry, little buddies. Oh, there is some sleetweed in here. I wish I could get my dirty little hands on a berry blossom. I would love to be able to make some berry sludge for future space missions at a good quality +3 and an exceptionally long shelf life. In other words, never. It really is a great space food. Back on our home planetoid, I am slowly doubling the size of our debris chiller. We've already put it in all the rails, all the pipes, although I still have to fill in more. We'll also say polluted water, enable auto bottle. I've got the 2 thermo aqua tuners up here powered off the regular spine. Each of their thermal sensors are set to 20 degrees. So these 2 thermo aqua tuners are really going to be able to increase our cooling potential. In fact, I'm just going to say 10 degrees since we have the thermal range with the polluted water. Remember, polluted water does not freeze until -20. And then I'm going to snip this one off here and connect this. And now I can get rid of this aqua tuner. And these 2 now have the job. Remember, this thermal aqua tuner was running between 90 and 100% every 5 cycles. So we're going to get to see what the addition of a second aqua tuner and double the size of the debris chiller is going to do for us. The pod is being generous today as we found a Max who looks like they're ready for the sleepy penthouse to begin with. But more importantly than the way they are dressed, they are a balloon artist with no big negatives. So they're going to make a perfect sleepy dupe. Welcome to sleeper number 6, Bob Ate My Bob Bob. Now the introduction of a new sleepy dupe is a little different. I need to assign them specifically to the mess table, to the bed, put them in pajamas, and once they're in pajamas, there they go. I can go up to another sleepy schedule and assign them to their life of ease. Gotta be honest though, this is not the life I'd want to have. Granted, they do get to wake up and enjoy a nice meal, even using some recreation facilities, but I don't think I'd like sleeping all day like this. But with Bob Ate My Bob Bob now on board, I can even give them more downtime to be able to do things like hand out balloons. But now that I'm thinking about it, because I have such a limitation of oxygen, of course I could always just create another spam. Maybe we keep it at 6 sleepers? Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to assign Flutterby to this wonderful cot over here, deconstruct this cot, and probably put a nice statue in here, and we'll just keep it with 6. The disadvantage being, of course, I'm not going to be able to extend their downtime too much because I need them sleeping much more often, so it'll be less balloons here, but this way I don't have to make a whole nother spawn just to support both the dupes here and the somnium synthesizer. Let's go with a nice granite marble block right here, and we'll call the sleepy situation pretty much done. Although I am noticing we are not keeping up with the oxygen demand. I don't love that. We're still waiting on another shipment of salt, so the rusty deoxidizer is not performing as it should be. I tell you what, while definitely not a permanent solution, why don't we use some of the oxygen coming from this vent? Granted, it'll have to stay insulated and not made out of granite. Granted, it will have to stay as insulated pipe because this oxygen's at 200 degrees thanks to all the hot sand that gets pumped in there. And I'm having more of a problem getting it over there than I thought I would. I suppose I can go right here and we'll just send it in through insulated. The somnium synthesizer is not going to care that it's hot oxygen. And then we can run it right through here. We'll set a bridge. We'll do a little loopy-loop. And perfect. Down here, I'm also going to want to bridge this on, sort of like this. And that way, if the rusty deoxidizer is providing O2, we will not be using our backup O2 from this vent. Now I'm gonna have to play the climbing game to get in here to be able to build some of this though. It would be great if they'd come and empty this desalinator, even though it doesn't need to be emptied yet. There's almost 600 kilos worth of salt sitting in it. Over here on Regalin, I have opened up this polluted water pond, and that way all of it will continuously off gas. I've also got a carbon dioxide sink here. In fact, I'm going to make the carbon dioxide sink here for now, since we're still doing some exploring. Next up, though, I need to insulate this cavity here, because I don't want all this cold. If I do something like this, we should be able to get in here and deal with this. And that way all this cold stays trapped, because eventually we're going to need to put some crops over here. As far as calories right now, because of the addition of the swamp chard heart, we are sitting at over 21,000 calories, so at least for 21 cycles, Callie is happy. I've put in the pitcher pump, so we have access to a little bit of water for use in the wash basins. I think the salad spinner situation is going to go right here. Not only is it conveniently located to the power setup, the sludge press gives off 4,000 DTUs of heat, which will also help get rid of all this chill here. Callie's making a much-deserved phone call home, and you gotta love it when they do that on another planetoid. Once they finish up with the phone call, here we go. There's the beautiful +4 for being sociable. And they get the +4 because, well, they talked to one duplicate across space, which also means whoever it was they were talking to over here also got the +4 to morale. I think before we end up sealing this off, I am going to go take a look and see what's in here. And you'll notice it looks like I am going to finally need that obsidian digging capability provided by the super duper hard digging. No big deal though, because we're now up to 18 morale for Callie. So we'll go super duper hard digging. Lots of polluted water going to spill over here. Not a big deal. I'm going to try to mop it up as quickly as possible. It took a few tries, but I was able to get it. Even the water coming out of here. And it looks like this is our hydrogen vent. If I were to guess, I do not want to take out this tile here because it's the tile that keeps the vent from erupting. The good news about this hydrogen vent is it will be a nice source of power. And depending on our needs, it might be able to supply the whole colony. But for now, we are just going to seal it up and then get to work on our salad spinner, as we're already up to 12 tons worth of mud and 5 tons worth of polluted mud. Do I have any access to sand over here? I do. I just need to dig down a little bit further. I'll grab a bunch of this delicious sand, and that way I can also get ready to put in the sublimation station. Now, the sublimation station is going to provide enough oxygen for 6 dupes. Well, we don't need that much oxygen. We only need enough oxygen for 2 dupes. And I think the sublimation station is actually going to go over here. In fact, it'd be better if the salad spinner was over here too, because of all the nastiness of working with the polluted dirt. I suppose I can put some sinks here too. Taking a look at it, we're already up to 13 tons of polluted dirt as well, and that's before we've even started processing any of the mud. Our salad spinner is going in. I am going to need some power for it. It's not too shabby. Sludge press only requires 120 watts. And I am going to put in a sink because we will be working with a bunch of polluted dirt. I'm also going to be dealing with some liquids up here. And here's where I have a choice. I can put down 2 sludge presses, one for mud and one for polluted mud, or I can put down 1 sludge press and then end up using a liquid filter. Because depending on what type of mud you're processing, well, makes a difference on what kind of water it produces. Processing regular mud gives us dirt and water, polluted mud, polluted dirt, and polluted water. So in this case, in order to save myself the little bit of power being required by the liquid filter, I'm just going to put 2 sludge presses in. Remember, our 1 dupe can only work 1 at a time anyways. And we're going to do something a little different with each of the outputs for the sludge press. The polluted dirt from the dirty sludge press will be going into a sublimation station. Eventually, I'll have some refined metal being sent over, and I'll be able to do that automatically with an auto sweeper. Then we just got to figure out what to do with the water. For the clean sludge press, I'm going to be throwing all the water into a bottle filler, and we're going to be using that water to supply our wash basins. So yeah, we're going to put mud to dirt and water on forever. It's only going to fill so much because once the bottle is full and all of our sources are also filled with water, well, all of it will end up backfilling in these pipes and we won't have to worry about it. The polluted dirt, on the other hand, there's some tricky stuff we could do with automation, like always making sure that we have polluted dirt on hand to be able to feed the sublimation station, but I think this is going to be our forever use. Unfortunately, I don't have a use for that polluted water quite yet. Eventually, it's going to be going into some bog buckets that can use 40 kilos worth of water per cycle. Now, the bog buckets only like it from 10 to 30 degrees, so let's say we grow some of them up here. Now, we're not cooking any of the bog jellies, as A, we don't have a cook, and B, it's not that big of a deal. So to figure out the math, it's pretty easy. At 1,840 calories divided by 6.6 cycles means we're going to be getting 278 calories per cycle. So we'll need 4 bog buckets per duplicate on this planetoid. I think we'll set up the floor right there. I'll come right out of the dirty sludge press and right into the bog jellies. It is warm enough up here at 13.5 degrees. And there we go. We have some bog buckets growing. Our sludge press is already backed up with that polluted water. Because the pipe is blocked, no further polluted mud is being processed. Our sublimation station is at max pressure. This little setup here, I have 2 deodorizers cleaning as much of the polluted oxygen as they can. I don't have an infinite source of sand right now. We will get there. I am going to start the processing of mud to dirt and water. And that way we have a renewable source of water for our bottle fillers to keep the wash basins going. That way Callie doesn't get sick by handling all of the polluted dirt. And it doesn't take long for the water to be backed up as well. So this is sort of Callie's day. They process mud, they process polluted mud, they make sure the deodorizers have sand. And for now, this colony is stable, at least for the foreseeable future. They have food in the form of bog buckets, they have oxygen coming from the sublimation station. Some of the future projects on this planetoid are making sure we have some renewable sand for the deodorizers if we choose to go with the polluted dirt route for oxygen creation over here. We might be able to do some stuff with the sweetles. We'll get some better power going with the hydrogen vent. But before we go, there's one more thing that we need here, and that is our mini pod. I think we're going to make our mini pod out of igneous rock, because why not? And it's either going to go here or right here in the middle. I think this spot's pretty good. Being careful not to get the light from the mini pod too close to the bog buckets, because bog buckets, just like their mushroom friends, only like to be in the dark. Oh, you thought I wasn't going to see you, didn't you, plug slug? Trying to infect my planetoid with a bunch of hydrogen. And so far you have succeeded. Evidence of your crime is everywhere. Great thing about the mini pod is every time we make one, we get one more new data bank. Next thing we have to do is activate it, which ends up just being a toggling errand. And there we go. 2 planetoids down. I have no idea how many more to go. Over on our home planetoid, we have finished up the new debris chiller. I can't remember if I showed you at the beginning, but our conveyor shut off. If we go to the properties, we can see its uptime. And basically what the uptime is how often it has to rotate materials back. Right now, we're getting a last 5 cycles of about 69%, whereas before the upgrade, it was sitting around 85%, which means 85% of the time, the debris would have to go back through the system. So we have gotten a little bit more efficient. I'm going to call this system done for now until we get the needed upgrade of supercoolant. And it does look like I plumbed a little bit too much out of this as usual. And supercoolant will drop this much further down. So the good news is our throughput for all the debris coming out of the industrial sauna has gotten a lot better. Our sweepies have been hard at work. You can start seeing little clean spots popping up everywhere. And I just realized sweepies will not go across pneumatic doors. They will only go across mechanized airlocks. So I need to flip those. This little area here is going to be problematic, so I think I will put another door so Sweepy can get over there. And all the way down here. We'll just add a bunch of airlocks, and that way Sweepy can cross. And there we go. The spaceport's been cleaned. We're getting a lot better throughput from our debris chiller. And we've colonized our second planetoid. Yes, we have a lot of work to do here. Which then lends to creative decision making. How many episodes would you like to see per planetoid? Say 2 or 3 in a row? Or would you rather we just bounce back and forth between the planetoids as we improve them? The one method makes me a little bit worried about non-linear storytelling, but either way, let me know what you think in the comments below. With that planetoid only having 4 types of vents or geysers means we're probably not going to be able to get enough data banks there. So next episode, I think we're heading to space. So I'm looking forward to reading what you think about this episode down in the comments below. And until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.